Every woman holds immense power within her, yet sometimes that power seems to slip away, not because she lacks strength, but because of small patterns she might not even notice. Think of it as a quiet contradiction. Your energy, your feelings, the words you speak, your ability to love deeply or to stay calm when things get difficult, none of these things rely on huge life changes. Instead, they come from the gentle habits you repeat every single day, many of which no one else sees, and if these patterns aren't understood and managed, they can become like a cage. They decide how you talk when you're under pressure, how you react when someone disrespects you, whether you bring calm or chaos into your life, or whether you build close connections or break them apart. So right now, we are not talking about being successful in the usual way the world sees it. We are talking about mastering yourself, not to impress others, but to find inner peace and a kind of elegant strength that no one can ever take from you, because it grows from inside you. Let us now explore together these daily practices, which seem small on the surface, but become very powerful when you do them with careful thought. When a woman wakes up in the morning, the world hasn't yet started asking things of her. In those peaceful early moments, she stands at a turning point. Will she face the day with a scattered, noisy mind, or with a quiet, strong spirit? There's an old saying that how you begin your morning sets the tone for the energy you carry into the world. And that energy, more than your words or how you look, is the first thing others sense from you. That's why the first daily practice every woman absolutely needs to learn isn't about doing more things. It's about simply being still. Stillness isn't about having no thoughts at all. It's about not getting caught up in your thoughts. It's the practice of starting your day from a place deep inside you instead of letting the outside world pull you. In ancient traditions, the inner self is seen as the starting point for everything that happens outside. If your mind is cluttered, your actions will be scattered. If your heart is uneasy, your words will carry tension. That is why a woman who teaches herself to begin her morning in silence, deep thought, or quiet breathing doesn't just calm her mind, she takes back control over how her life feels. Modern brain science supports this old truth. When a woman starts her day with just 10 minutes of purposeful quiet, before looking at messages, before speaking, even before moving, her stress hormone levels become balanced. The part of her brain responsible for clear thinking and making good choices becomes more active. This means she responds to life from her deeper wisdom, not from old emotional habits. Over time, this builds emotional toughness, a quality far more appealing than any physical attractiveness. There was a woman in her 50s who once shared her experience at a wellness retreat high in the mountains. She had spent her entire adult life raising children, working 2 jobs, and always hurrying. Her body had become tight, her moods unpredictable, her relationships strained. I lived in reaction, she admitted. It felt like the world pushed me and I had to push back. But something changed when she began a daily practice of waking up at 5:30 in the morning, lighting a candle, and sitting in silence for 15 minutes. No phone, no talking, just breathing. After several weeks, she noticed something rather remarkable. Her adult son spoke to her more gently. Her coworkers reacted to her presence with more respect. And she no longer cried over small frustrations. Stillness had made her inner world softer and strengthened her presence in the world. She hadn't changed the world around her. She had simply returned to her true self. The feminine spirit is naturally very insightful, but intuition cannot work in a noisy environment. It whispers, it does not shout. That's why this morning practice isn't just spiritual, it's very practical. A woman who listens to herself before the world tells her what to do, develops a calm nervous system. This is her best shield in a world that often values speed over good judgment. This is how she starts to develop emotional self-control, not by pushing feelings down, but by finding a strong anchor within. When a woman starts her day firmly planted in stillness, her relationships change. She no longer demands peace from others, she brings peace into the space. Her partner feels safer to open up. Her children are less reactive because they feel her consistent presence. Even in arguments, she holds a quiet center. She doesn't chase things, she doesn't beg, she pauses. And in that pause, she sees things much more clearly. She learns that not every comment needs a reply, not every invitation has to be accepted, and not every problem is hers to solve. This habit, though simple, is one of the most profound acts of honoring her emotional self. It says, before I give to the world, I will spend time with myself. That stillness becomes her safe haven, and from it, her power grows. However, stillness on its own is not enough. We must also understand the rhythm of our own bodies, the silent language of our breathing. This brings us to the second daily practice every woman must learn, guiding her emotional self through thoughtful breathing. We are born knowing how to breathe properly, deep, full, and steady. But over time, because of stress, difficult experiences, and societal expectations, women start holding their breath, especially when they feel emotional tension. They breathe shallowly into their chest, not their belly, and this tells the body that it is in danger. Without realizing it, many women live in a constant, low-level state of fight or flight, not because of actual danger, but because their breathing tells their nervous system to be ready for it. Here's something that brain science confirms. Breathing is one of the only bodily functions that is both automatic and something we can control. This means it is a direct link between the unconscious mind and our conscious awareness. When a woman learns to return to her breath, not just during quiet reflection, but throughout her day, she sends a powerful message to her body, I am safe. Emotional safety is the bedrock of every important relationship. Without it, a woman reacts instead of responding. She overexplains things. She tries too hard to please people. She becomes overly sensitive. But when her breathing is slow and steady, her entire presence communicates a calm confidence. This has a powerful effect, like a magnet. Her partner feels emotionally supported without being controlled. Her friends feel understood without being judged. Even strangers react with unexpected warmth. Why? Because people are designed to sense the emotional state of others before they even hear their words. I once heard a story about a school teacher in her 60s who had struggled for years with worry and constant tiredness. Her doctor gave her medicine, but nothing brought lasting relief. Eventually, she was taught a simple breathing exercise. Breathe in slowly for 4 counts, breathe out gently for 6. She practiced this 3 times a day, especially before going into her classroom or having difficult conversations. Within a month, she noticed her heart rate was lower, her thoughts less chaotic. She had more patience with her students and felt less bad after disciplining them. Her relationships improved not because others changed, but because she began to live in a calm, balanced state. Her breath had become her steady anchor. In relationships, breathing creates a space between what happens and how you react. A woman who breathes before reacting becomes less emotionally tangled. She doesn't interrupt, she listens. She speaks slower, with more care. This doesn't make her weak. It makes her strong, because presence is power, and presence starts with the breath. Even our body's workings support this. Deep belly breathing activates a specific nerve that controls a calming response. This lowers blood pressure, reduces swelling, and increases a hormone that helps with bonding. So, when a woman breathes carefully, She is not only calming herself, she is also making herself emotionally available. That is how trust is built, not only with others, but within herself. There's a quote from an old spiritual writing. The wise woman breathes from her heels. It's a poetic way of saying that her breath reaches deep into her body, grounding her like a mountain. She is not easily moved by storms. She may feel the rain, but she does not crumble under it. In the modern world, women are often told to move faster, push harder, speak louder. But there is a deeper wisdom available. Move slower, breathe deeper, speak less. And when you do speak, let it come from a place of calm truth. Breath is not just a way to relax. It is a way to practice being present. It teaches the emotional body to stay open, but not to overreact. And in loving relationships, this is a hidden strength. During tension, instead of making things worse, she breathes. During quiet moments, she doesn't fill the space with fear. She breathes in trust. She begins to embody emotional steadiness. This is the kind of presence that earns respect, not just affection. Right? Mentorship, affection, awareness, and honesty all. Imagine a couple arguing. The man raises his voice. The old pattern might be for the woman to match his volume or shut down in silence. But a woman who has practiced her breathing pauses. She grounds herself before replying. She slows the rhythm of the conversation. She doesn't need to control him. She simply steadies herself. And in that moment, she changes the whole situation. Not with dominance, but with calm. This is not about being perfect. There will be days when her breathing is shallow, when emotions overflow, when quiet seems impossible. But the practice isn't about getting it right every single time. It's about returning to it again and again. That's where mastery begins, in the act of returning. There is a sacred power in a woman who wakes early, sits in stillness, and remembers how to breathe herself back to her core. She no longer looks to the world to make her feel secure. She becomes the source of security. She no longer waits for someone to calm her. She calms herself. And in that space, she becomes the kind of woman whose presence brings healing, simply because she has made inner peace her daily practice. In life, it's not what happens that shapes us. It's how we react to what happens. And yet most people are not responding, they are reacting. These are two very different states of being. A reaction is immediate, emotional, and often happens without thinking. It comes from past hurts, from ego, from fear. A response, however, is thoughtful, intentional, and rooted in the present moment. The difference between the two may seem small, but the results are not. For a woman seeking emotional balance, peace in her relationships and inner strength, the ability to observe before reacting is not just a habit, it is a path to self-mastery. Picture this. A woman walks into a room where her partner sits silently. He doesn't look up. She feels a sharp pang in her chest. Her mind starts racing. Is he mad at me? Did I do something wrong? Why is he ignoring me? And before she knows it, she has slammed her bag on the table or asked in a sharp tone, "What's wrong with you?" The tension grows. The evening is now filled with invisible barriers and emotional distance. Now imagine the same woman, but one who has developed the practice of noticing her inner state before reacting. She still walks in, sees his silence, and feels the same first wave of unease. But she pauses. She breathes. She quietly names the emotion. I'm feeling unsure. I'm feeling unseen. And instead of confronting him with annoyance, she offers space. Maybe she sits beside him quietly. Maybe she says gently, You seem quiet. Is everything okay? That change from reaction to observation creates emotional safety. It builds trust. It keeps the connection strong. This is the core of inner work. Learning to watch your own emotions without letting them take over. The Buddhist tradition talks about this as watching the river without jumping in. Emotions are like water. They move, they surge, they settle. But we are not the water. We are the awareness behind it. The more a woman practices this, the more she starts to see patterns. She notices how certain tones of voice bother her. She observes that tiredness makes her more sensitive. She realizes that old, unresolved hurts from childhood often fuel current disagreements. And with each new understanding, she becomes less reactive and more able to respond thoughtfully. From a psychological point of view, this practice of observation uses the part of the brain responsible for rational thought over the part that controls fear-based reactions. Over time, this trains the brain for patience, clarity, and emotional flexibility. One woman once shared how this idea changed her 30-year marriage. Her husband, a quiet man, often became silent during arguments. This used to make her furious. "Why won't you talk to me?" she would demand, seeing his silence as a rejection. But after learning to pause and watch her own emotional reactions, she began to approach these moments differently. She would feel the old fear rise, acknowledge it, but choose not to act on it. One evening, instead of confronting him, she simply said, "When you go quiet, I feel distant from you. I want us to stay connected." To her surprise, he opened up. "I just don't always have the right words," he admitted. That single moment eased years of tension between them because she had observed rather than reacted. Connection became possible. Or, we are not taught to pause. We are taught to perform, to defend, to answer quickly. But emotional maturity comes from learning that not everything needs your immediate reply. Not every criticism is about you. Not every disagreement is a threat. Sometimes the highest wisdom isn't holding back. Eastern martial arts emphasize this deeply. The master does not strike first. She waits. She reads energy. She only moves when necessary, and when she does, it is precise. In life, this idea applies beautifully. A woman who observes her own reactions gains freedom from being pulled into pointless conflicts. She becomes very discerning. She no longer wastes energy on drama. She knows her peace is sacred. In relationships, this changes everything. Because relationships are not destroyed by one single comment. They wear away slowly from unchecked reactions, sharp words, unaddressed assumptions. But if a woman can put even a small pause between emotion and expression, she breaks the cycle. That pause is power. It might mean walking away for 5 minutes or taking a breath before replying to a difficult message. It might mean choosing silence over sarcasm. It might mean writing down emotions in a journal before speaking them aloud. Whatever form it takes, the main idea is this: observe first, then choose. There's a powerful quote: "Between what happens and our response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose how we respond. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." This space is what the reactive mind fears, but the truly aware woman respects it. To observe before reacting is not about suppressing feelings. It is about self-restraint. And self-restraint in a woman attracts a different kind of relationship, one built on truth, not drama, one that invites mutual respect, not power struggles. But how does one develop this habit, especially after years of living on emotional autopilot? It starts with the practice of emotional cleansing, the fourth habit every woman must master. Every day we clean our homes, we wash dishes, we bathe our bodies. But few of us clean our emotions. Yet emotions, like physical dirt, build up. They cling to conversations left unfinished, to criticism not yet processed, to sadness pushed aside. Over time, they weigh the body down, they tighten the chest, they cloud the mind, they show up as irritation, tiredness, resentment, or feeling numb. Just as the body needs cleaning, so does the heart. Emotional cleansing is not a dramatic process. It's gentle, daily, and quiet, but it is necessary for clear relationships and inner vitality. One powerful tool for this is writing in a journal. At the end of each day, a woman sits with her feelings, not to fix them, but to let them be seen. She might write, "Today I felt ignored when no one acknowledged my efforts. I felt tired after giving too much in a conversation that wasn't equal. I felt joy when my daughter hugged me." This practice is like sweeping the emotional floor. It stops dust from becoming a problem. The story comes to mind about a woman who had suffered through years of quiet frustration in her marriage. She never spoke about her disappointments. She didn't want to be a burden. But over time, those unsaid emotions turned into bitterness. She stopped touching her husband's hand. She began snapping at her children. She felt emotionally heavy all the time. Finally, after attending a workshop on mindfulness, she began a simple daily practice, writing one letter a day, not to send, but to express herself, sometimes to her husband, sometimes to her past self, sometimes to her deceased father. Within 3 weeks, her face softened, her body relaxed, her laughter returned. When emotions are expressed safely, they no longer poison the present. Another way to emotionally cleanse is to spend time in nature. Nature has a way of absorbing emotional noise without judgment. A woman who walks slowly under trees, listens to birds, or watches clouds is unknowingly grounding herself. She is releasing energy. She is reconnecting to something bigger than her own mind. Psychologically, this process helps the nervous system calm down. Stress hormone levels drop, the body returns to balance. Spiritually, nature shows us that things don't last forever. A fallen leaf does not resist, it gives in. This reminds the woman that emotions too are meant to move through, not stay stuck. Sometimes emotional cleansing comes through talking, not with many people, but with one safe person. Someone who listens without trying to fix things. Someone who doesn't judge the messiness. This kind of emotional closeness is rare, but deeply healing. When a woman finds that space, she must value it because in sharing, she sheds burdens. Then there is movement, conscious, purposeful movement. Dance, gentle stretching, even simply shaking her limbs in silence. The body holds unexpressed emotion, especially in the hips, jaw, and shoulders. By moving the body, we release what the mind cannot process on its own. The body communicates through feeling. When we give it space to move, it returns to balance. But none of this is possible without being aware. Emotional cleansing begins with noticing. I am feeling bitter. I am holding tension in my chest. There's a sadness I've ignored for weeks. It is not the emotion that hurts. It is the unwillingness to feel it. Once it is named, it begins to loosen its grip. In relationships, this is life-changing. A woman who cleanses her emotions daily does not project old pain onto her partner. She does not mistake past betrayals for present love. She knows what she feels and takes responsibility for it. She does not expect others to read her mind. She speaks with clarity, not confusion. She asks for what she needs. She apologizes when necessary. This kind of emotional cleanliness creates a love that breathes, not one that smothers. This also makes her shine. There is a glow that comes from a woman who is not carrying yesterday's weight. Her eyes are clear, her voice is soft but grounded, her presence feels safe. She does not need to act kind. It flows naturally because she's not defending herself from her own emotions. From a spiritual viewpoint, this is called purification, not in the sense of being morally good, but in the sense of clearing energy. A pure heart is not one without pain. It is one that does not hold on to pain. A woman who learns to feel and release, becomes open. She becomes present. And in her presence, others feel a desire to improve themselves. These daily habits, pausing before reacting and cleansing the emotional body, are not glamorous. They are often invisible to the world, but they are incredibly transformative. They shape the quality of a woman's relationships, her health, her happiness, her ability to love and be loved. Because a woman who knows how to observe her emotions without being overwhelmed by them and release them without pushing them down becomes a safe haven, not only for herself, but for everyone she meets. A woman's ability to find stillness in a loud world is not just a spiritual luxury, it is truly needed. Silence in today's world is often misunderstood as emptiness, but true silence is full. It contains wisdom, energy, and truth. It is in this silence that a woman truly meets herself, beyond her titles, her roles, or the expectations placed upon her. To sit in silence, even for a few minutes each day, is to return to what is real. It is to remember that beneath all the things we do, there is a core being that simply exists. In the teachings of Eastern philosophy, silence is not nothingness, it is presence. In the Shaolin tradition, silence is practiced not to escape life, but to become more deeply connected to it. A woman who practices stillness begins to feel life more vividly. She notices the movement of the wind, the rhythm of her own breath, the subtle changes in her emotional landscape. She becomes aware of what she usually runs from: loneliness, unmet needs, the truth she avoids when she is distracted. Brain science confirms the power of stillness. When the brain is given time to rest, it doesn't shut down. Instead, it activates what is called the default mode network, a system involved in self-reflection, bringing memories together, and processing emotions. In stillness, the mind organizes itself. This is why moments of sudden understanding often happen not when we are trying hard to think, but when we are simply being. A woman might struggle with a decision for days, but in one quiet morning, the answer comes, not as logic, but as an inner knowing. Consider the woman who begins her day not with a rush of things to do or phone alerts, but with 10 minutes of quiet sitting. She lights a candle. She places both hands on her heart. She listens not to a voice from outside, but to what stirs within. Some days it's calm, other days it's restlessness. But she doesn't fight either. She simply observes. Over time, something profound begins to shift. She no longer feels the need to prove herself. Her day unfolds not from a sense of urgency, but from clear purpose. She becomes deeply rooted, not hurried. In relationships, this stillness becomes a safe space. When a woman is still inside, she is not easily provoked. She doesn't fall into the trap of over-explaining herself, overthinking the moods of others, or overreacting to quietness. She is grounded. Her partner feels this. Her children feel this. The people around her begin to relax in her presence. Why? Because true stillness is appealing. It radiates peace, not a performance. There is a story from Zen teaching about a student who asked his master, "How do I become wise?" The master replied, "Sit down and be quiet." The student waited, and then he asked again. The master said, "Then wisdom will find you." It is simple, but not easy. In a world that values being busy, stillness is an act of rebellion. But it is in this act of rebellion that a woman takes back her power. From a physical standpoint, stillness calms the nervous system. It activates the body's calming response, slowing the heart rate, softening muscle tension, lowering stress hormones. This is not just relaxing, it is resetting. It is giving the body space to recover from emotional tiredness, too many decisions, and relational stress. But stillness is not only physical, there is also emotional stillness. This is the ability to sit with an emotion without rushing to fix it, to feel sadness without needing to escape it, to allow joy without fearing it will end. This emotional stillness deepens a woman's ability to love without holding on too tightly, to grieve without falling apart, to be with her own heart without judging it. One woman shared how stillness changed her approach to love. She had a pattern of giving too much, pouring into others, taking care of their emotions, until she felt completely drained and resentful. She thought this was love, but in silence, she began to see the true reasons for her behavior. It was not love, it was fear. Fear of being left alone, fear of not being good enough unless she proved her worth. She cried, she wrote, she sat with this pain, and then over time she began to practice a new kind of giving. One that came from a place of fullness, not from a need. Her relationships changed, not because others changed, but because her energy changed. Stillness gave her the mirror to see herself clearly. There is a moment in each day where a woman can choose noise or depth. It might be in the morning before anyone else is awake. It might be at sunset with the sky painting quiet stories. It might be in the car, choosing silence over the radio. These small choices shape the mind, they shape the heart, they train the soul. In traditional Chinese medicine, the heart is seen as the leader of the body, the center of awareness. But the heart cannot guide well if it is always restless. Stillness is what allows the heart to return to wisdom. A woman who lives in emotional reactivity will always be looking for stability from the outside. But a woman who practices stillness begins to create stability from within. Stillness also reveals the patterns that trap us. A woman may notice that every time she feels unworthy, she seeks distractions. She texts someone, she scrolls, she eats, she shops. But in stillness, she pauses. She feels the ache. She does not numb it. And something amazing begins to happen. The ache loses its power. It transforms. Because feelings, like waves, rise and fall when they are allowed to exist. From a relationship point of view, this is groundbreaking. It means a woman no longer seeks a partner to rescue her from discomfort. She does not ask another person to fill her quiet spaces. She meets her own depths. And when she enters relationships from this place, she is not needy. She is complete. This creates a new kind of connection, one based on shared presence, not emotional dependence. In practical terms, how can a woman practice this daily habit of stillness? Begin with your breath each morning. Before picking up the phone or stepping into your daily tasks, sit for 5 minutes. Close your eyes, feel the breath entering and leaving your body. Don't try to control it, just observe. This grounds you in the present moment. Use guiding phrases in moments of worry or overthinking. Repeat silently, I return to stillness. This moment is enough. These simple sayings are not magic, but they are reminders. They bring the mind home. Create times without technology. Even 10 minutes without screens can reset your nervous system.